can't believe it. Think. The story. A young man falls in love with a swan on his birthday. Hello! He's looking for his love in the middle of the forest, in the middle of the night. Is this supposed to be called a coming-of-age narrative? The best thing about Swanlake is that Siegfried dies at the end. And even that he doesn't do all the time. In 1877, in the first staging of Swanlake, he did not die. Flop. In 1895, in the Petipa Ivanov version, the one we know best, he dies. Grand succès! In 1901/1920, Gorsky's production, totally hopeless. Even the dancers hated it. He did not die. Siegfried is the final point of a lineage of male protagonists in the ballet tradition. 1830, in the Sylph, James is sitting in his castle in Scotland in an armchair. He falls asleep. A sylph floats in through the open window into his room. She hovers in the air with her small, small wings flapping. Marie Taglione. It was just a dream. 9 years later, in Giselle, Albrecht dumps his love. She dies, and he gets lost in the forest in the middle of the night. Forest, middle of the night. Where the willies almost dance him to death. Almost! They had their chance. They could have got rid of him just like that. But no. Girls! So in this respect, the death of Siegfried at the end of Swanlake is a true development. Every night in an opera on a ballet stage somewhere in the world, one of these ballets are shown. Year in and year out. As I was a dance critic, I wrote about all of them. I don't know how many of them I've seen, over and over again. Today I would not write a single word anymore. I mean, compare a jeté in Moscow with a jeté in Paris, or a fouetté in Singapore with a fouetté in Sydney. In 1998, I wrote an essay on the construction of desire in Swanlake, on Siegfried and Rothbart. Enter Siegfried with a bow in his hand. He's looking and looking. Enter Rothbart. Flap, flap. Spotlight, big shadow cast on the back wall. Flap, 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 flap. Rothbart, le grand A, the big A, as Jacques Lacan puts it. The other, the big other, the place where the unconscious exists, where otherness is. Siegfried, l'objet petit a, the small a, longing, the gaze, inherent in small a. The shadow, the desire. The desire that always, according to Lacan, eludes satisfaction. The desire that can never be fulfilled and therefore is in the need of repetition and repetition. We will get back to that very soon. But desire has the split. It exists in the split between subject and object. Rothbart and shadow, split. Gap, void, in between. Siegfried and Rothbart, in the gap, here exists the desire. We can even envision a small desire in the split between the persona Odile Odette and somewhat desiring from Siegfried towards this. However, we see very clearly the homoerotic desire inherent in Swanlake as a subtext. That's clear. But moreover, we have the whole construction of desire here, as in the doubling of the Odile Odette, the shadow and Rothbart. We have this Doppelgänger motif, das Unheimliche, that is in the unconscious. And this very key scene, in this small short scene, the whole construction of desire in Swanlake is revealed. At least that's what I wrote in 1998 in my essay. But it wasn't this I was going to tell you. I wanted actually to talk about how it all started. It was a beautiful day. I sat in a cafe in Berlin with my friend Christopher. Christopher leaned towards me. Annika, what if you would make a solo? Me, never. Christopher, I don't make solos anymore. I always fall asleep when I make a solo. But of course, I immediately started to plan my solo. And I envisioned how I told all my friends about it. A solo, Annika! Fantastic! Fabulous! Marvelous! Wow! Super! A solo! That's so great! They slapped me on my back. They banged me on my shoulder. They hugged me hard. They threw me in the air. And they opened bottles of champagne. A solo! What will it be about? Swanlake. I make Swanlake. It's the biggest ballet and a solo. The classics of classics. Me! That's so clear. That's self-evident. Of course. Swanlake was on at Deutsche Oper at that time. So I got tickets and went to see it with my friend Victoria in order to do research for my solo. I had never seen this pure Petipa Ivanov version live before. had only seen it on VHS cassettes that I had been playing back and forth as I was writing my essay. So finally, I was going to see, and the whole construction of desire would be revealed in front of my very eyes. I was all tense. I sat in my chair and I leaned forward. Victoria watched me. Siegfried! Rothbart! There was nothing. Not a single petit A. Not a strand of desire. There was absolutely nothing. There was no foundation for my analysis. There was everything else. Nature, culture, black, white, man, woman, the dichotomies, the binary oppositions, Derrida, Cixous, Lévi-Strauss. The thought is always working through the opposition, as Cixous states it. The binary oppositions, the pairs, the opposing pairs are actually couples, she continues. Let me think. And logocentrism subjects all thought to the hierarchies, and hierarchies are always at work. And the hierarchies are man, woman, good, bad, masculinity, femininity, day, night, active, passive, sun, moon, etc., 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 etc. All of this is embodied in the character of Odile Odette. And more so, or actually, we see it very clearly in the two words of Swanlake. Petipa's word here, the old word. Petipa himself was rather old choreographing this. He was in his 70s. The old order, the patriarchy, feudal order, all that, the court word, culture. That was his word. And here we have Ivanov's word, the word of Rothbart, nature. Enchanted forest with the abducted young women turned into swans. The new word, the new era, in the guise of swans. Chaos, night. The modernization breaking through, the modern era coming through in the guise of swans coming onto stage, swarming in. Industrialization, production lines, railroads, trams, buses, automobiles, electricity, aeroplanes, department store, urban life, urban lifestyle, buzzing city life, crowds of people where you drown, the masses, the collective dream that Benjamin writes about. It's all here. And Siegfried. Siegfried is the one who is passing from one word to another quite effortlessly. He is just transgressing the border, and therefore he must die. Siegfried is punished with death because he transgresses the border. Normally it's actually women who are punished with death because they transgress borders. But here we have Siegfried being punished with death. At least this is something we would have written in 1995 as I was studying at university. But I don't know, is it so? Does Siegfried actually die because he's punished because of transgression? I don't know anymore. Well, anyway, there I was sitting in my chair at Deutsche Oper. I was totally stiff, and I just looked ahead. All these court scenes, the court dances, the divertimientos, the Spanish folk dances, and all the other folk dances just passed in front of my very eyes. And I got more and more tired. My eyelids grew heavier and heavier, and I fell asleep. I fall often asleep. When I was dancing and making solos, I came in to the studio, I warmed up, and I laid down on the floor to think through what I had done the previous day and plan what I was going to do now, and fell asleep. 3 hours later, I woke up. I watched out, it was dark outside, I was late, so I had to leave. The next day I come into the studio, I warm up, and then I lay down on the floor to think through what I was going to do and fall asleep. And this continued until the solo was ready. It's not the end of the world to make a solo. I mean, first you do something here, and then you do something else over there, and then you do something else over there, something third, and then you end up with a fourth thing over here. I mean, at least a short solo can be like that. As I returned to Helsinki, I started to work on my solo, Swanlake, with my friend Martina. Martina and I did research on YouTube. Mariinsky, Kirov, Bolshoi, Paris, London, New York, Stockholm. We watched all these productions of Swanlake. Then we tried out the movement material from Swanlake, the épaules, arms. Head and arms. And fingertips. Fingertips, fingertips, fingertips. Out. We walked around in relevé. We improvised in relevé. We created with the stuff, with the movement material. We made improvisations. We made small scenes of the personas, the character. We did all that, what you usually do. higher, 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 always higher in ballet. The ballerina's phallus, as Swanlake Foster puts it. This is also one of those things that I did not quite get when I was studying at the university 20 years ago. But now I understand it, more or less. It's, of course, even then I understood that penis is not phallus. They are not the same. And penis, no, phallus is the symbol for penis. That is even kind of understandable, but it's not so. Phallus is the signifier of penis. That's what it is. And that's quite clear. To put it really simple, you have it or you don't. And if you don't have it, you are phallus. So those who have, they have, and those who don't, they are. Like that. Think of this scene with the 48 swans coming onto stage in rows of 24. 48 swans in perfect lines. They must be perfect. I mean, it doesn't make any sense if they are not perfect. I mean, a little épaulet here and a little head there. No, they have to be perfectly synchronized production lines. Production lines, did I say so? Anyway, yes, lines. And what do we see here? Do we see 48 penises? I don't know. Some totally straight and some a little like tilted over there. No, I don't know what we see. More likely we see phalluses. 48 phalluses. I would go for that. Oh, whatever. We were doing work with these things, Martina and I, in February a year ago. And in the end of the process, I realized that it's impossible. This does not work. There is absolutely nothing I can do with this material of Swanlake. I mean, we can't go on. I hate Swanlake. So I decided to give up on the project, to just leave it, and never return to it anymore. But I couldn't tell Martina, because I was afraid she would be so disappointed. I decided to be totally quiet and not say a single word, because then she might forget about the whole thing. Stephanie called at that very moment from Berlin. She invited me for a mushroom residency. Mushrooms! Wow! Exactly what I need now. Mushroom! Mykorrhizia. The theme with the residency was mykorrhizia. We had a long conversation about why mykorrhizia is different from rhizome and why it's not at all the same. Why mykorrhizia is a new way of connecting together with people, a new way of being in the world with each other. How mykorrhizia is a new, more than network. Mykorrhizia is giving and taking at the same time. Without mykorrhizia, nothing would exist. It's quite simple that as well. Envision, yes, there is a forest and the rain pours down. And then the mushrooms plop, plop, all over. And the trees, and without trees, there would be no mushrooms. And without mushrooms, there would be no trees, because they feed from each other underneath during the system. And it's not a parasite, It's not a symbiosis, it just is. It's a mushroom's Dasein. It's very simple. And we are all in this web of being. Well, we're talking about these things, Stefanie and I, and in the end she asked me what I would be working on during this residency. Stefanie, I'm a little in between projects at the moment, so could this question wait a little? Annika, what if you would just say something? Just give us a small hint. Yeah, Stefanie, I don't really know. But Annika, you can always change it. In that case, let's say I'll work with Swanlake. It was a Sunday afternoon as I arrived in Berlin in June. I got the keys to the flat and the keys to the studio. The next morning I bicycled from Mitte, where I stayed, to Ufer Studios in Wedding. I opened the door to the studio. I stepped inside. The ceiling was high. Light was streaming from the window. I stood in the middle of the room and looked around. There were tables scattered and plinths all over, with mushrooms on top of them. Dried brown mushrooms, wizened mushrooms. There had been a heat wave, so all the mushrooms had died. On one end of the room was a shelf, a bookshelf with mushroom-related objects. Small Christmas decoration mushrooms, plastic lamp mushrooms, eraser mushrooms, maps of mushroom places. And on the top shelf was a decanter filled with kombucha. I love kombucha. Mushroom drink from Siberia. I took down the decanter in order to pour myself a glass. I looked into it. Dead flies were floating in the kombucha. So I put it quickly back and decided to have a coffee break instead. I went to to the coffee shop on the other side of the road from Ufer Studios. There was Stefanie, Björn, Melanie, Jamie, and everybody else was there. Annika, how is Swanlake going? Well, good. Good, very good. When you are on a residency, you're there to work. You're not supposed to go and hang out in town and meet up with your friends, go shopping, sit in cafes. The least you can do is stay in your studio. When Oblivia, the performance company Oblivia I work with, is on residencies, we are very good. We work diligently 8 hours a day, and we have small breaks in between. Not too short breaks, nor too long breaks. In the end, we show a work in progress. It's not a too good work in progress, nor is it too bad. It's the perfect work in progress. So, you are on a residency in order to further your career. That's clear. So every morning I left from Mitte and bicycled to Ufer Studios. I locked myself into the room and I started to write on my analog blog. I wrote thoughts that I had been thinking the previous day. I wrote what I was thinking at that very moment, and then I wrote what I was going to think very soon. And I scattered these papers all over the studio. I thought that perhaps somebody would now and then, or by chance, pass by and come in and just pick up a paper and read it. I invited colleagues for tea parties. We had long discussions on art and life. We were talking about things like the implicit and explicit demands, that sometimes there are demands that you fulfill, but nobody actually was demanding these demands. And sometimes there are these demands that you don't know that they exist, so you don't fulfill them. And then sometimes these two things can go together, but that's a very rare opportunity. I mean, it's like, we were talking that it's like orienteering with a map in the middle of the forest, but without a compass. You walk uphill and downhill, and you walk around the lake. You might even go through the lake. You go to the swamp, through the marsh, you get lost, you find your way, and it's like that. Some call it strategical planning, and some do strategies that even works out. But most of the time they don't do it anyway. But that's the way you are, basically. The days passed, and after each working day I left for Mitte and in order to relax and chill out at home. My last tea party guest was my friend Michael. We set out the tea on the yard of Ufer Studios. It's a very big yard, concrete asphalt yard. It was still hot after the hot summer day, and the yard was oozing with heat. We set out the tea, the apple cake, and the vanilla sauce on the yard. And it was somewhere there by the pear cake, no, the apple cake it was, that I realized what it was about. It's just about presence. That was all it was about. Total concentrated presence. It's what all real artists are about. Presence. Every single gesture I made was immersed with presence. Every action I did was presence. Was present. Michael was telling about how art and life is intertwined, and how there is sometimes a gap between him and art, between him and life. And sometimes he's just standing and watching the gap between art and life widen. I followed his every single thought. I could see them being clarified and clarified. I saw his reasoning and how the labyrinth, the maze of his very thought process was evolving. I could follow every nuance of what he was saying and how he was going to say the next thing. It grew dark, so we broke up. Michael was going on holiday next day, so we walked towards the gate. Michael unlocked his bicycle and turned towards me. Annika, I'm so sorry that I can't see your work in progress tomorrow. I would so have loved to see your Swanlake. Michael bicycled away, and I walked towards the studio. There was a paper on the floor, on the ground, with the program of the week. Annika Tudeer from Oblivia, Finland, will show her work in progress of her solo Swanlake that she has been working on during her residency period here at Offer Studios at Thursday PM, 6 PM, free entry, everybody welcome. I phoned Christopher. Christopher, help! I have a work in progress tomorrow, but nobody told me. What shall I do? No panic, Annika. I bring the DVDs. Thank you, Christopher. Then I phoned Florian. Florian, I have a work in progress tomorrow. Annika, no problem. I'll bring the glass bowl. The next morning, Christopher came and we put out 4 screens in the studio, 4 DVD players and earphones. Christopher had brought with him Oblivia's work. Everything you say will become dust anyway. Entertainment Island 1, 2, 3. Museum of Postmodern Art, MoCMA 1. Super B. Super Christopher! Florian came. Here's the glass bowl. We will fill it with water from the pond outside and place it here. Great, Florian! Then we will take these post-it notes and write keywords from our long discussion on collaboration and collective work. And we will place them here all over on the floor. Annika Annika, could you bring in those stones from that heap outside and place them on the post-it notes? And I have this John Cage recording on mushrooms. Then Florian had to leave. He had a meeting. He promised to come back very soon. Heike came in. She took out all the dead mushrooms and replaced them with new mushrooms. Living mushrooms, white, red, blue, green, beautiful mushrooms. Annette came in. She had a bunch of flowers. She put the flowers all over the room. Ulrike came in with a new decanter of kombucha. Kombucha! Don't drink it! At 6 o'clock, Stephanie opened the doors. The audience streamed in. Torsten, Darius, Cornelius, the dramaturg, Matthias from Berliner Festspiel, the new intendant from Musontur, what's his name? Anne from Hau, Anna from Kampnagel, Ricarda from Nordwind, Katarina, Ricarda's assistant, Stefan from Pakt. Half of Berlin was there. Paul, the other Paul, the girl with the blue hair, the short boy, I never remember his name. Ulrike, Monica, Melanie, Jamie. And in the end, Florian came. He went directly to the John Cage recording and put it on. And then he went to a post-it note. He picked up a stone and placed it in his mouth. Then he walked towards the bowl. He opened his mouth and the stone dropped down. I did the same. We took turns. We picked up a stone, we put it in the mouth, and we walked to the bowl. We opened the mouth, and the stone dropped down, dropped into the water. And this we did and did until the John Cage recording was finished. Then we also stopped. The audience watched the DVDs of Oblivia's work. They put on the earphones. They looked at the mushrooms, all the new fresh mushrooms. They had drinks, they had snacks. They were chatting among each other, they were mingling. They looked at the post-it notes all over the floor. Collaborative work, collaboration, cooperation, collectivity, chaos, catastrophe, cute. Paul came up to me and hugged me really hard. He tapped me on my head. Paul is really tall. Anne came up to me. Anne is Annemi's right hand from Hau. She's rather short. Annika, this was wonderful. Thank you. Tell me, what did this have to do with Swanlake? The next day I left for home. In the autumn, I started to work on a new solo. This would have nothing to do with Swanlake. I started from a clean slate, tabula rasa, 0, nothing. Every day I came into the studio and worked. I did not fall asleep once. And in the end, I had a work in progress. Afterwards, we had a discussion, and I explained about my process. We had a Q&A session, question and answer session. My colleague Lisa Risu asked me, Annika, why not Swanlake? So I had to start from the beginning again. This is quite something. It reminds me so. You know this scene in Mopma 1 where Anna is here doing old new, old, new, old, new. And Timo is over here, and I come here in the projection of Champs-Élysées. This is also one of these things. It's quite something. I performed this scene quite a few times, and it's only now that I really understand it, what it's about. I mean, it's quite something. So, stepping into the new and leaving the old behind. Stepping into the new and leaving the old behind. Stepping into the new, leaving the old behind. Timo, you can't do that. Of course I can. I walk to Timo, and he explains why I can't step into the new and leave the old behind. It's because each step I take becomes old, so I have to take a new step, and a new, and a new, always a new step. Step, new, new. Because if you take a small break, the new will move away, and the gap between you and the new will grow bigger and bigger and bigger, and the new will be smaller and smaller and smaller. And the old comes from behind and drags you back. But the most incredible thing is that I'm here in the middle of time, here and now. I've never been so in the middle of time before. I'm usually a little ahead of time, or a little on the side of time, like northwest of time. But now I'm exactly in the middle of the time, doing exactly what everybody else is doing. I mean, I'm in the middle of the trend. This is quite something. And I'm not moving backwards at all. Quite on the contrary. I'm moving forward, perhaps. Quite effortlessly, by myself. Just like that. That has never happened before. Like this. Like, yeah, without trying, just moving. Not even intended so. In the middle, with time, like this. It's quite something, you know. It's new, at least for me. Yeah, I'm quite pleased, I would say. It's not, yeah, new experience, at least. But there is something I would like to show you that I brought with me from the beginning. Let's see if I will manage. I think so. Let's see. Hold on, let's see. I usually, I think I can manage. It's not so hard. It's not so easy either. You'll see soon. But I really want to share it with you. It's okay. Yeah. I know that one day I'll get to try it. there's a trick to it.